Let's move on to Sunday's action. We start at 1 p.m. Eastern. Cleveland Browns 4-4, 1-2 on the road at Cincinnati Bengals 5-3, 2-1 at home. Dan Kelly says, I wish I had Bebsie's moral fortitude. I know Thursday night football is bad for the players' physical and emotional health, but God help me, I have to watch the game. Yes, I enjoy having NFL football on Thursday night. But look, we got Maction on right now, and I love having Maction on Tuesday night. Sean Dozier says that first half under has already scored. Burgundy Bet says Jonathan Taylor to score and the Colts to win at -150 on DraftKings. So we're in Paul Brown Stadium in Cincinnati, Ohio, 57 Fahrenheit, sunny, 6 miles per hour. Look, it's a warm fall, and there's no weather issues whatsoever on this whole card at all this week. Browns are putting up 221.4 passing yards a game and rushing for a league best 161.1 yards. Their defense allows 220.1 passing yards and 84.8 rush yards. Bengals offense puts up 264.5 yards passing through the air, 98.6 on the ground, and they allow pretty much the same, 266.9 yards through the air, 94.4 yards on the ground. We have Cincinnati opening up as 2.5-point favorites. That's where it stands right now. Let me just make sure that this is moving. This page is moving. The market's moving. Yeah, it seems to be moving. Okay. So we have 2.5-point favorites for the Bengals. This total opened up at 47, and that's where it stands right across the board. If I take a look at the cash flow situation in this spot, we have 3,013 tickets in. 34% of the tickets are on the Browns. 49% of the cash. 30% of the tickets are on the under, and 61% of cash is on the under. And the Browns have been playing a lot of under-type football. What's worked, and it always does around this time of year in the middle of the season, is just going against what everybody saw the week before. So it was a very easy move on the New York Giants. It was a very we cashed off that very easily, and I wonder if the Bengals will be in the same spot. Browns come in off an ugly 15-10 home loss to the Steelers. The Carolina Panthers fall in that group too. People didn't believe what they saw in that 25-3 loss, and then they went into Atlanta and beat them comfortably. Baker Mayfield was 20 of 31 for 225 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Jarvis Landry caught 5 passes for 65 yards, costly fumble, and then had a couple passes go through his fingertips late. That was very costly. Njoku caught 3 passes for 39 yards. Nick Chubb ran 16 times for 61 yards. Darius Johnson ran 4 times for 22 yards. That touchdown run he did was very beautiful. The defense couldn't get enough pressure on Big Ben. They sacked him twice, hit him 5 times. Right tackle Jack Conklin dislocated his left elbow in the second quarter, so he will not play this week. He had missed the previous 2 games with an ankle injury. Safety John Johnson III didn't return after a neck stinger in the first half. He's day-to-day. Denzel Ward, Donovan Peoples-Jones, so cornerback, wide receiver Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Tack McKinley were all inactive. It says questionable this week. And then, of course, there's the Odell Beckham Jr. drama and LeBron James tweeting out free OBJ. And there's drama going on in Cleveland. Let's start with the Cleveland Browns. Bebsie, what are your thoughts on them after a 15-10 loss at home, traveling to Cincy for a huge divisional game?
Well, look, this is a very talented football team on the verge of watching the wheels come off. Any distraction does not help right now. They've sort of been derailed by injuries. Well, not sort of. They've straight up been derailed by injuries. And this is a really, really tough spot because you're going against a divisional opponent coming off a loss that they know they should have won. And they're at home. So I think it's a get-right spot for the Bengals. And it's look, the Browns should have won this last week. They're a better football team than the Steelers. Yeah, they're more banged up than the Steelers, but the Steelers have their role well. I just think it's a really, really difficult spot for Cleveland, and they don't need any distractions. And OBJ, as talented as he is, he's been a distraction everywhere. And he's been injured a lot too. I mean, the production doesn't match the problems with him. So, yeah, go ahead, free him. Get rid of him. He's not been an exceptional lift to your football team. Jarvis Landry's clearly been more important to the Browns than he has. So I just think this is a really difficult spot. And to sort of echo and add on what you said about this being the time of year where people look at recency bias and it fools them. I just think I think people think they have the league figured out by this time of year. They're like, okay, I know what this team's going to do. I know what this team's going to do. We have a bunch more evidence to put towards the conclusion. But in reality, it's still football. And, there's a reason we say any given Sunday. And that's why I don't know where to bet here, because my brain says the Cincinnati Bengals get right after that tough loss at home against a banged up, distracted Browns squad.
Yeah. No, I think that's well put. And I think Dennis Garcia nails it too for me. He says, I know I don't want Cleveland this week. Brady says these first two games are so tough. A month ago, everyone would have hammered the Browns. I lean Browns here. Bengals should not be road. They're home here, but he must be talking about yesterday. He says it would be last week. So he said it would be Browns or nothing, in my opinion. Dennis Garcia said Cincinnati played a bad game. When was the last time Cleveland played a good one? Honestly, I don't care. Look, the Bengals debacle, I really think there was a lot of coaching mistakes that happened down the stretch there for the Bengals to not be able to defend short passes is pretty astonishing here. But why would anybody have confidence in the Cleveland Browns right now? Let's talk a little bit more about the Bengals here. Coming in off a shocking 34-31 loss at the lowly Jets as double-digit favorites. Joe Burrow goes 21-34 for 259 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Third in the NFL in touchdowns with 20. Fifth in passing yards, 2,215. T. Higgins caught 4 passes for 97 yards. Tyler Boyd caught 5 passes for 69 yards. Jamar Chase had a bad game, 3 catches for 32 yards. Joe Mixon ran 14 times for 33 yards in a touchdown, caught 4 passes for 58 yards in a touchdown. The offense wasn't the problem. And Logan Wilson was still playing well, 12 tackles, but they couldn't get pressure on White. They were held to 2 sacks and 4 quarterback hits. The secondary looked very vulnerable. And I think that would be the only reason that I can think of as to why Sharps, as of right now, are betting the Browns. So as of right this very second, there's 3,013 tickets in. 34% of the tickets are on the Browns, and 49% of the cash are on the Browns, which tells me that the Sharps are on the Browns. And it's because Mike White completed 82.2% of his passes against this Bengals secondary. Right guard Jackson Carman was carted off the fourth quarter with a back injury. Auden Tate, wide receiver Chris Evans were inactive, and they're listed as questionable. So 6 of the final 9 games for these Bengals are at home. And I just wonder if they get hot here. Rose Miller says, I'm on Cincinnati. I guess if I saw Sharps on the Bengals here, I'd move on them at -2.5. And I guess the fact that they are not, that the Browns are the Sharps will just give me, I just want to sit and stare at this a little longer and try to figure out. Can you think of any other reason other than how bad Cincinnati's secondary looked? Can you think of any other reason why the Sharps might be on the Browns in this spot?
I don't know, other than the fact that they might think it's a get right spot for this Browns team. Like the Browns should be a good football team. They haven't been. And I know a lot of people didn't like my bet against the Steelers last week, but I loved it. And I was more confident about that than most of my bets, and I was dead wrong. Because I think so much of this Cleveland football team, everything runs through that offensive line, and they were finally healthy for a week. Then they lose Conklin again. That guy can't seem to stay healthy. But I just thought with Chubb back, I really thought they were just going to smash that ball down the Steelers' throat, especially with guys like Tuitt out and a banged up, Steelers defense, and they just couldn't get it going. So I don't know, maybe they're thinking another week back. Chubb's ready to go now. I don't know. They haven't given me, especially after last week's performance, enough to be excited about going against a very, up and coming, talented Cincinnati Bengals team at home.
Harold Williams says better jump on the 2.5 if you want the Bengals. He says he thinks we'll go to 3 or 3.5 by the end of the week. So I use Pinnacle as an opener, but there were books, as Dan Kelly stating, that had the Browns at +3. And Brady Bet says this line opened up at 3. We've already seen the Cardinals and Chargers lines both open up 3 now. Pick'ems. This is down to 2.5 now. Could go lower. It looks like people are going to follow the sharps at this point. If you think the public's going to come in on the Bengals, they won't come in on the Bengals till Friday or Saturday at the earliest. Nuke Walker says Browns on the road on a short week with all the shit going on. I can't see them getting anything going. So in a situation like this, it's a very comfortable and easy thing for me just to stay off and try to figure out exactly why Dan Kelly. Of course, I'll hold the cash. I'm good at that. I do hold the cash for a few different pools out there. Cleveland Browns. I'm going to wait. Quick thought on this total, Bebsie, before we move on. This total is sitting at 47 with no movement at all. Actually, a half-point drop at Will Hill, but none of the other books. What do you think of this total at 47?
I think I would lean over, and that has more to do with the fact that the Cleveland Browns defense is still quite banged up. And, the way the Bengals performed against the Jets, and I know it's a terrible recency bias look because most of this season the Bengals defense has been, solid. And I just think both of these offenses are capable of putting up points. That said, divisional opponents in a huge defining, like this is a season defining game for both of these teams. If the Bengals lose, they're obviously still very much alive with a winning record. If the Browns lose, this is a really tough hole to climb out of for them. And I know they'll be one game below 500. It doesn't seem like that much, but it's the continuing trend for them right now. So that leans dogfight for me. So in that argument, I'd go under. I think that's why you're not going to get a ton of line movement on this because it's a pretty sharp number.
Well, it's going to be a stay off at this point. It just requires more study. Slatsy says Browns down 2 safeties. Can Browns match points here? I don't think so. That's what Slatsy